my presentation for my IOP. Anyways, so you guys know the story of Othello. You guys know the story of Frankenstein. What if I told you this? Victor Frankenstein and Iago are... No, that's wrong. This is wrong. Don't pay attention to this. Shouldn't be here. And they're not women, quite the opposite actually, quite the opposite. Get it out of here. Okay, quite the opposite actually. They are in no way women whatsoever. They would actually despise that saying. Don't say that to them, they'll probably get upset. Anyway, Iago and Victor Frankenstein, however, they use their masculinity to hide the little femininity that they do have. So just think about this. I have to set up an act. There are 1 act, 2 for each character. I have 2 for Victor Frankenstein and 2 for Iago. It's gonna be great. Our first act is gonna be sick and dying on a boat. So, first we're going to show a more feminine side of Frankenstein. He is sick, he is dying, he's fainting. I'm going to read this quote to you all out loud. Upon hearing this, he appeared satisfied and consented to come on board. Good God, his limbs were nearly frozen and his body dreadfully emaciated by fatigue and suffering. I never saw a man in so wretched a condition. We attempted to carry him into the cabin, but as soon as he had quitted the fresh air, he fainted. Now, this is a romantic novel. It's common in romantic novels for women to faint. And he fainted on this boat. But on the same boat, sick and dying, on this boat later on in the story, he tries to cover up the fact that he is in fact sick and dying when he's talking to Walton's crew. Frankenstein, who had at first been silent and indeed appeared hardly to have face enough to attend, now roused himself. His eyes sparkled and his cheek flushed with momentary vigor. Turning towards the men, he said, "What do you mean? What do you demand of your captain? Are you then so easily turned from your design? Did you not call this a glorious expedition? And wherefore was it glorious?" So, the sick and dying, faintly man, he's trying his best. He's calling other people cowards and unmanly for not wanting to die out in the cold. Meanwhile, he himself is dying in the cold. Poor Victor Frankenstein. Now, our next act, creating life and then abandoning. You know, the job of creating life is normally a job of that of a woman. You know, that's what they do. We make babies. That's kind of our purpose, in a sense. And, well, you know what Victor Frankenstein decides he wants to do? I want to make a person. Well, I don't think Mother Nature likes that very much. But here we go. First quote. It was a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils, with an anxiety that almost amounted to agony. I collected the instruments of my life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already on the morning. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out, when by the glimmer of half-extinguished lights I saw the eye of the creature open. It breathed breathed hard and convulsed, motion agitated its limbs. So he makes this monster. He created life, but right after he's like, oh shit. So, horror and disgust filled my heart. Unable to endure the aspect of being I had created, I rushed out of the room, in my bed chamber, unable to compose my mind to sleep. I threw myself on the bed in my clothes, endeavoring to seek a few moments of forgetfulness. But it was in vain. I slept indeed, but it was disturbed by the wildest dreams. So he makes this creature. He makes this person. And he's like, yes, I made life. That's great. And then he realizes, oh no, I failed horribly. I did something I wasn't supposed to do. So what am I going to do? I'm going to run away and abandon it and pretend it doesn't exist. Forget about it. That's pretty much what he said. Anyways, so there's Victor Frankenstein, hiding behind the fragileness of his masculinity, because what he wanted to do was kind of dainty, making a person. He fails miserably. He tries to forget about it by abandoning his creation. He also, he's fainting and dying on the boat. He's weak. He's all but he instead of being like, hey, you guys should not follow my mistakes, he's like, you guys are cowards and should keep going with the things that are killing you. Next we have Iago. Honest Iago. Good old Iago. Anyway, so our first act for good old Iago is spiders are always feminine. First quote for this, I'm gonna read. He takes her by the palm. I will say, he whispers, with as little as web as this, I will ensnare the great fly as Cassio. I smile upon her, I do. I will give thee thine own courtship. So, Iago is using these spiderish metaphors. And throughout history, in most cultures, spiders are depicted as feminine creatures. He's wrapping Cassio in this web of his own creation. So he is ensnaring Cassio, and his obsession with sort of the male cast in this story is kind of feminine in a way, the way he obsesses over them. Second quote I have is that this is later in the conversation. He's talking to Desdemona, and he's trying to tell her what a woman should act like in the same conversation. She that was ever fair and never proud, had a tongue at will and yet was never loud, never lacked gold, yet never gay, fled from her wish, and yet said, now I may. She that being angered, her revenge be nigh, bade her wrong stay and displeasure fly. She that in wisdom never was so frail to change the head for the salmon's tail. She that could think and never disclose her mind. So in the same conversation, when he is speaking to the audience, he's gonna be like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna get Cassio in my little web." He's also turning to Desdemona and saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. This is how women should act. This is how they should behave." So in the same conversation where he's being all feminine and spidery, he's also like dissing women at the same time. And our next act for good old Iago is my personal favorite, the handkerchief and the whore. So when good old Iago, his wife Amelia, finds this handkerchief, and it's Desdemona's handkerchief, he's like, I'm going to read this book. "Oh, is that all?" Amelia says, "Oh, is that all? Will you give me now for that handkerchief?" Iago says, "What handkerchief?" Amelia says, "What handkerchief? Why, that the Moor first gave to Desdemona, that which you so often you did bid me steal. Iago, a good witch, give it to me. So, Iago wants a handkerchief. Specifically, the handkerchief that Othello gives to Desdemona. Now, I'm not an expert or anything, but handkerchiefs are kind of a big deal in these sorts of situations. Because, it's a sign of love. You give somebody your handkerchief. Iago wants Othello's handkerchief. So, put the pieces together, I'm guessing Iago is a bit interested in what Othello has. Also, he tries, in this interaction later, Amelia is telling people that, yes, Iago wanted the handkerchief. Amelia says, "'Twill out, I peace no. I will speak as liberal as the North. Let heaven and men and devils, let them all cry, shame against me. Yet I'll speak." Iago says, "No, wise get you home." Amelia says, "I am not." And then later in the conversation, Iago turns to Amelia and calls her a villainous whore. In the same exchange that he himself wanted this handkerchief from Othello. And when Amelia's like, "Yeah, you wanted this handkerchief," he kind of gets upset, and he's like, calls her a villainous whore. So now you have this here Iago, who, at the same time being feminine with his spider imagery, wrapping Cassiel in web, tries to tell women what they can and can't do, try to explain how they should behave, calling his own wife a villainous whore, and yet him himself being obsessed with the handkerchief of another man. So now we have Iago, Victor Frankenstein. They're both considered manly men. Well, they try to perceive themselves as manly men to cover up the little femininity that they have. Any questions?
You all have to ask questions.
So, the kind of dynamic you described throughout the presentation is that you feel like it's female expression from these male characters. Are you sure it's female expression, or what do you think about the interpretation that it's like a homosexual?
I mean, there's that homosexual interpretation, but I'm describing typically feminine characteristics, like in romance novels with handkerchiefs, they're normally given to.
So that's what you think it plays more to?
That's what I think it plays more to, but you can also play it to a homosexual interpretation.
I was just wondering why you decided to dress like that today.
Well, because I thought it'd be a good show of duality between, like, female and
I want to piggyback on Jackson's question, because the whole thing about the homosexual undertones in any of these works, and they are there, but it's not understood in that way, because homosexuality is an identity, is a 20th century development in the 16th century. That's not to say there wasn't homosexuality. I mean, that's as old as human nature, but in terms of the way that we see that and construct that, that wasn't even a thing. It was probably seen in a very different way. So when it comes to what you're talking about, just gender roles, and some of the attributes that we attribute to the feminine and masculine, how much of historical context should we consider in accepting your claims here?
Well, we see works different as time goes on, but back then, Mary Shelley was a very... Well, with Frankenstein, Mary Shelley kind of reversed the gender roles of Frankenstein, in my opinion, because she was the only one that could have written this book, like her husband had said, And I think that she was playing with that a little. Shakespeare, on the other hand, I also think the undertones were there on purpose because theater has always been sort of a more, I don't want to say like homosexual-ish, but like more expressions. Because you had males playing female characters a lot, so there was more of that in play. But I don't think it was mostly intended. But the more we get into this progressive era nowadays, the more we can interpret things this way. It just depends on what time you're interpreting the work.
Good job.